What's up, everybody? Welcome. Move the Sticks. This is the 360 series. Daniel Jeremiah, joined as always by my partner, Bucky Brooks, and we have another Buckeye in the chair. I think it was like our ninth Buckeye coming through here.
We've had a bunch of Buckeyes.
Yeah. Nick Vannett, tight end for the Buckeyes. How you doing, man?
Doing good. How about you guys? Thanks for having me.
I'm doing good. By the way, can you even keep up with everybody in your draft class?
It's hard to. There's, like you said, there's so many guys that are entering the draft this year. But we're a tight knit group, so. We just like to check in with each other and see how everyone's doing.
I envisioned this text chain, right? It's like 14 Buckeyes just back and forth. Like, where were you today? I was with the Jets. How about you? I was with the Rams. Hold on. How was this? How was that? So, at least you have some guys you can talk to about going through the process. Have you guys been kind of communicating through this whole period?
Yeah, absolutely. And, for me, Jeff Hireman, he went through this whole process a year ago. And, I've been talking to him and kind of, learning from his experiences to help prepare me, for what I'm going through, and he's been great. He's been great support, and just all the guys who went through this a year ago, just trying to figure out how was the combine like, how are these visits, what do I need to expect to to help prepare myself for it. So I've definitely used them as resources.
Obviously, you guys won a lot of games at Ohio State, winning program, championship program. How do you think that experience is going to help you be a really, really good pro at the next level?
I'm so grateful to for Coach Meyer and his whole staff, and even the strength staff. When he first came in, it wasn't a stable program. We went 6-7 the year before, and he came in and cleaned everything up, and really developed me into a great player. And if he didn't come in, I don't know where I'd be today. And so I'm just very grateful for him and the whole coaching staff. Even my position coach, Coach Hinton, we definitely had our rough patches, early on, and once you go through that, you kind of learn and grow up, and just like I said, just forever grateful for them.
You say rough patches with a coach. That's something we hear a lot. That's pretty normal, but give us an example of what that period of time was like and how you guys got through that.
It was tough, I remember just like it was yesterday, the first week we had 4:45 a.m. workouts outside in the cold. We had to work our way into the facility. We had to earn our right. We couldn't even wear Ohio State gear. We had to wear our own stuff. And I just remember, we had to run around the field, and it's freezing cold. The field's all frozen over. All the coaches are spread out around the field, just kind of, saying all this crazy stuff to us, just just making us mad. And it was brutal. I think at that point everybody wanted to quit, but once you learn how to go overcome those things and go through that stuff, it better prepares you, and it kind of show me how to have a work ethic, and how to be mentally tough. And like I say, if I never had to go through that, I don't know even if I'd be here today, just because it gave me the right mindset.
Bucky, that's changing the culture. People throw out these terms like, we're going to come here and change the culture. That right there, he just describes how you change a culture.
Yeah, you do have to change the culture if you're trying to go from being a team that underachieved to a team that is a championship team. And thinking about your mindset, you talk about the mindset that you had to take to not only play at Ohio State, going into the combine. What were some of the goals and objectives that you had going in, and did you feel like you accomplished those things when you were able to sit down in front of the GMs and coaches and kind of show your side, not only from a character standpoint, but an athletic standpoint?
Yeah, well, I think, a lot of people had questions about, if I was a receiver or not, just because, mainly my time at Ohio State, I was more of a blocking tight end. And, I've always felt that was a strength of mine. And, I just wanted to put that on display and just remind him, this is the kind of player I am. I've really developed to be a good blocker, but I've always had good hands, always ran good routes, always had good speed. And I just wanted to put that on display. And, when I met with the teams, you just got to be real with them. You got to show them, the kind of person you are, and you just got to have fun with it. I feel like a lot of guys try to be too uptight, they get overwhelmed with all the personnel that's right in front of them. But I look at it as, it's just a lot of fun. It's how many guys get to go through this experience and process, and you just got to have fun with it. And I have no regrets with my process, making that transition to the draft.
You talked a little bit earlier about Jeff Hireman being able to help you through this process as somebody that's played the position, same school, same meeting room with you, and has gone on to the NFL. Was hurt last year, but hopefully he's going to have a long NFL career. How much of a benefit was it to you? I'm just sitting there thinking through my head. Okay, you're a tight end. We as scouts, you're always going out there to practice, and when you're scouting, you always pay attention to the one-on-one period. Now you're getting a chance as a tight end. You're going up against linebackers like Darren Lee and Josh Perry. You're going up against safeties like Von Bell, who can really, really cover. You've got Tyvis Powell, another safety that's going to get drafted. Maybe Eli Apple comes in there and gets some reps. How much has that talent on the practice field benefited you and made you a better football player as you march towards the draft?
Oh, it's been great. I mean, people always ask me, who's the best player you've gone against? And I always name players on our team just because I feel – I'm going against better players in our practice than we are in the games. And that's why I've always felt like the games were so easy for us just because, we have such great talent. We recruit so well at Ohio State, and we have such great players that you go against them every day in practice, it's going to make you better because you're not going to face those good of players in the games. And, it definitely – once you go against them every day, it definitely makes some good strides.
Who's the best cover player you go against in practice?
No, Von's pretty good. But after, like I say, once you go against them every day, they start to figure out the offense and the plays. He knows like when I get a certain amount of depth, if I get like 10, 12 yards, I'm always gonna run in or a corner. So he's pretty much had to figure it out. So so yeah, after a while, he kind of he got pretty good, but it's fun going against them because like I said, it made me a whole lot better, and I'm giving them a good look, they're giving me a good look. So.
Well, I'm going to let Bucky throw some tape up here, Bucky, and take a crack at evaluating Nick here. We'll see if you agree with our assessment here with my man Bucky, or what some things that are your strengths as well as something you can work on. What we got here, Buck?
No, we got a little scramble play. Look, we talked about his hands and how he catches the ball really well. For tight ends in today's game, you have to have versatile players, guys that can catch it out the backfield, but also give you a little something as a blocker. Before you came in, Daniel, we talked about this pick play, being able to put the ball in the paint. For so many teams, you're always looking for a tight end that can do so much. Line up outside, line up inside, block, catch. I thought you did all those things in a very, very solid fashion. The only thing that we talked about this a little bit before we came on air, separation. The big thing in the league is learning how to create separation, mastering all the little tricks of the trade that allow you to separate from those defenders that kind of grab on you. That'll be the thing that will determine whether you have a tremendous amount of success as a pass catcher or if they kind of cast you into that blocking role, and no one wants that because they want to get
What would you say, though, Nick? Something, you put a lot of pride, I know, in your blocking, and I know it can be frustrating at Ohio State. There's so many mouths to feed with this offense that the numbers are not going to wow you for anybody across the board because the ball just spread around. But what's an area you would say right now, this is what I do best right now, and this is an area that you've been working on really trying to improve?
Like I said before, I've always felt a strength of mine was my receiving abilities. My hands, I'm going to catch anything that's near me. And, I show that on my film and, in the games. I think this year, I think in 2 years combined, I only dropped like 2 passes. Mm-hmm. And my blocking wasn't really there because I wasn't really asked, to do a whole lot of that, because I had Jeff Hiram in front of me. He was more the blocking tight end. Mm-hmm. I was more the receiving. So we made a pretty good duo, together. And once he moved on, I knew that was a big part of this offense. When you have a running back like Zeke Elliott and an offensive line that we do, I had to step up my game. I didn't have a choice, and that's something I put effortless time into. In the off season to try to develop that skill and work on my technique and firing out the ball. And I think that's something I really developed as a good trait of mine. And I think that really put me in a position to be one of the best two-way tight ends in this draft.
What have you learned since the season ended and going through this process and talking with teams and different things, though, something saying, okay, hey, this is an area we want to see you get better at, and what are you doing to address that?
I think just kind of fine-tuning everything. Mm-hmm. I'm pretty solid at everything, but I'm not, exceptional, and that's something I want to be. Like I said, I like emulating, the best tight ends in the league, and I think right now Rob Gronkowski is one of the best, and he's a guy who can do it both as good as anyone in the league right now.
What's the one thing about him that makes him great? What would you say?
He's just so physical. He's just a big body dude, and he just goes and attacks the ball, and when it comes in the run game, he's a physical blocker. I just like I like the way he plays the game, and that's who I want to emulate myself after.
Me and Bucky talk about this all the time. 40 times for tight ends.
Irrelevant.
Don't care. what can you do to create that separation in your route, the fine-tuning? Antonio Gates, if we put a clock on him right now,
we talked about.
We'll run 5 flat. So, I mean, just being able to learn that position and study that position. I really think the tight end position is almost more of an art form than any other position out there. So the time you're going to put in, I'm always curious when you're talking with players, say, okay, what other interests do you have in life? What do you want to do? Where you want to spend your time? Because the great ones are so solely focused. So, I mean, you're more than willing to put in the time and study guys that are doing this the right way to go ahead and achieve what you ultimately want to achieve.
Yeah, absolutely. It's not my goal just to be here for 3 years and get out of the league. I want to be here as long as I can, and I'm willing to put the time and effort into it to achieve that. And, my goal is whenever I step in the locker room day one, I'm gonna study the veterans and, pick from their brains and, figure out, okay, what did he do to, that's kept him here for so long, and just doing what I can just to, better prepare myself and, hopefully stay in this league for as long as I can.
This is one of the better all-around tight ends in this draft class. I remember went back and looked at my notes from last year, and I just had, okay, you're doing Hireman. I'm like, okay, that guy's kind of lean, athletic, on the seam, stretching the field a little bit.
Yeah.
And he came back this year, and I saw the way you improve as a blocker and everything. So you're an interesting player, man. We wish you the best. Before I let you go, I've had all these Buckeyes in here, and I haven't asked any of you guys this because I went to your game, went to the bowl game where you guys got out for Notre Dame in the Fiesta Bowl. I went to the Cotton Bowl and saw Alabama, Michigan State. Then I went to the national championship game, so I saw all those playoff games and all that. What would have happened? I know what happened the last time you guys played Alabama. What happened if you guys got your hands on Alabama again this year?
I've gotten that question quite a few times. It would be interesting. I was hoping we'd get the matchup again, just because I felt that we were the best team in the country.
You were, by the way.
Ever since that Michigan State loss, we showed the team up north and Notre Dame that we're the best team in the country, and it didn't matter who was across from us. We were gonna give them our best game, and I felt like if we were playing Alabama, I don't know.
I went and watched. Like I said, I watched those games. I'm sorry to hang on this point, but I'm Bucky. I'm there and I'm watching Michigan State against Alabama.
Yeah.
And all I'm thinking of is, how the heck did Ohio State lose this football game? You guys should not have lost that game to Michigan State. What happened, man?
I don't know. It was a combination of things. Zeke Elliott, he missed a whole week of practice because he had like an infection in his leg. So the timing with that and the run game was kind of off. He didn't get as many carries. It could have been the play calling. I mean, the weather was bad. I mean, there's just a number of things. I don't want to make up excuses.
No.
But,
you shouldn't. You guys shouldn't have lost. Is what I'm getting at.
We just weren't clicking on all cylinders on offense. Defense, they played a good game. They definitely carried us a lot in that game, and it came down to a last-second field goal, and that's just that's how things go sometimes.
The guy hit it and then gave you the windmill like 9 times at Michigan State.
I bet you they remember that. I think Buckeye maybe remember that.
Well, if he wants to see that game next year, you can be watching it on TV because he's going to be with an NFL team. Nick, hey, appreciate you stopping by and spending some time with us. We wish you the best of luck as you march forward and figure out where you're going to be playing.
Absolutely. I can't wait to find out. Appreciate the time as well.
We're almost there. All right, one of the really fun players to watch in this year's draft class. Nick Vannett, thanks for stopping by. He's Bucky Brooks. I'm Daniel Jeremiah. For all of our 360 series, go to NFL.com/MoveTheSticks360. You can check out all of our draft videos. We've had a bunch of the top players in this draft class. Sit in that chair right there.